Viking raiders hauled 80-pound oars through open ocean storms for days straight, carried 200-pound longship masts on their backs across frozen mountain passes, and fought full-contact battles in knee-deep mud wearing 50 pounds of chain and iron. No gym, no program, no pre-workout, no coach. Yet the average Norse raider would physically destroy most modern gym-goers in any test of real-world strength. And what's wild is, science now confirms their methods were more effective than almost everything you're doing right now. Pattern interrupt Odekap, Kate Konseng Kuikre, 020 to 030. This is going to sound completely wrong at first, but your structured training split, your progressive overload spreadsheet, your optimized protein timing, all of it might be the reason you're weaker than a medieval farmer who never touched a barbell. Here's the truth most fitness content won't tell you. Modern training is built around isolation, separate the muscle, control the variable, remove chaos. But the human body didn't evolve in a controlled environment. It evolved hauling, fighting, climbing, carrying, and surviving under unpredictable load. The Vikings understood something we've completely forgotten. The body doesn't build strength in isolation. It builds strength through integrated demand. Every movement they did loaded multiple chains simultaneously. Every effort was unstable, uneven, and unpredictable. And that is what forged bodies that could function under the most extreme conditions on Earth. The science has a name for this now. It's called neuromuscular co-contraction patterning. And it explains why their primitive methods built more resilient, more powerful, more functional physiques than most modern protocols ever will. Now, there are 6 specific training methods the Norse used daily that we can extract and apply right now. One of them has been shown in recent research to activate 40% more total muscle fiber than a conventional barbell squat. I'll show you that one soon, but first, you need to understand why your current approach is leaving so much on the table. What most people do, they follow a body part split, chest Monday, back Tuesday, legs Thursday. Each muscle gets its own day, its own exercises, its own neat little box. Why it's wrong, your body has never, not once in 300,000 years of human evolution, used a single muscle in total isolation. Not during a hunt, not during a fight, not during labor. Every action your body performs is a symphony of co-contracting muscle groups, stabilizers, and fascial slings working together. When you isolate, you train the muscle, but you starve the pattern. The Vikings never isolated anything. A single rowing stroke engaged their legs, glutes, core, lats, rhomboids, biceps, forearms, and grip simultaneously, under fatigue, for hours. The better method, full chain compound movements performed under fatigue. Here's how. Replace at least 2 isolation exercises per session with loaded carries, heavy rows from the floor, sandbag cleans, or sled drags. The key is, every rep should require your entire body to stabilize the load. Progression method. Don't just add weight, add time under load. Start with 30-second carries, build to 90. The Vikings didn't row for one set of 10, they rowed for hours. Duration is the variable most people completely ignore. Here's where it gets interesting, because the next method is the one that outperforms the barbell squat. And it's something you can do with zero equipment. What most people do, they squat and deadlift on flat, stable ground with a perfectly balanced barbell on a fixed bar path. Why it's wrong, real-world strength almost never operates on a fixed bar path. The Vikings didn't lift symmetrical loads off clean platforms, they hoisted wet timber, they hauled struggling livestock, they heaved enemy bodies off their shield wall. The load was alive, the ground was uneven, the demand was chaotic. A 2021 study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that lifting an awkward, unstable load from ground to standing activated 41% more aggregate muscle fiber than a traditional barbell back squat at the same relative intensity, specifically in the deep stabilizers of the spine, the oblique sling, and the hip complex. This is the movement pattern the Norse performed dozens of times a day without ever calling it training. The better method, sandbag or odd object ground to shoulder lifts. Here's how. Get a heavy sandbag, or even a heavy duffel bag filled with sand. Start with it on the ground, lift it to your lap, re-grip, then heave it to one shoulder, drop it. Repeat on the other side. This is ugly. It's supposed to be. The instability is the stimulus. Your nervous system has to recruit more motor units because it can't predict the load path. That's the mechanism. Progression method. Start at 60% of your deadlift max in sandbag weight. Work sets of 5 per side. Add 5 pounds every 2 weeks. When you can ground to shoulder your body weight in a sandbag, you'll have strength that transfers to everything. And this changes everything about how you think about cardio. Because the Vikings didn't do that either. At least, not the way you've been told. What most people do, treadmill, bike, elliptical, 30 to 60 minutes of steady state at a moderate heart rate, completely separate from their strength work. Why it's wrong. The Vikings had a word, threlldom, essentially meaning the endurance of a laborer. Their cardiovascular conditioning was never separated from load. They didn't jog. They rode under resistance. They hiked under pack weight. They fought in sustained grappling bouts that spiked and dropped their heart rate in violent, unpredictable intervals. This is exactly what modern exercise science now calls cardiac output training under load. And it builds a completely different cardiovascular system than empty-handed steady state. When you carry load while your heart rate is elevated, you force your heart to pump against greater peripheral resistance. Over time, this increases stroke volume, meaning your heart pushes more blood per beat. It also increases what's called vascular compliance. Your blood vessels literally become more elastic and efficient. An unloaded jog does not do this. The better method, loaded conditioning circuits. Here's how. Pick 3 movements: a heavy carry, a sled push, and a step up with weight. Rotate through them for 20 to 30 minutes at a pace where you can breathe through your nose but barely hold a conversation. That's the intensity window. Progression method. Add 5 minutes per week. When you hit 40 minutes, add weight instead of time. This is how you build the engine of someone who can work all day, not just survive a 5K. If you're finding value in this, if this is shifting how you think about training, hit subscribe. I break down the actual science behind real-world physical performance. No fluff, no fads, just what works and why. Now, this next part is the one almost nobody talks about. And honestly, it might be the single biggest reason modern athletes are more fragile than medieval warriors. What most people do, they use straps, hooks, and mixed grip to get around their weak hands. They train grip as an afterthought, if they train it at all. Why it's wrong. In Norse culture, grip strength wasn't an accessory. It was survival. You held onto your weapon or you died. You held onto the oar or you drowned. You held onto the rope line or the sail ripped free and the ship went down. Here's what's fascinating from a neuroscience perspective. Your hands have the densest concentration of mechanoreceptors in your entire body. When you grip something hard, it sends a massive afferent signal up through the brachial plexus to the motor cortex. This signal doesn't just activate your forearms, it facilitates irradiation. Irradiation means that a strong grip signal amplifies the neural drive to every surrounding muscle. Squeeze harder, and your shoulder stabilizes more. Your core braces harder. Your lats engage deeper. Grip isn't an accessory. Grip is a force multiplier for your entire body. The Vikings trained it constantly, through rowing, climbing, weapon work, and a brutal form of wrestling called glima that was almost entirely grip-dependent. The better method, dead hangs, fat grip holds, and towel pull-ups. Here's how. End every training session with 1 max effort dead hang. Use a thick bar or wrap a towel over the bar. Squeeze as hard as you can. When you fall off, rest 2 minutes and go again. 3 rounds. Progression method. Track your hang time. When you hit 90 seconds on a standard bar, move to a fat bar. When you hit 60 seconds on a fat bar, add weight. Your pulling strength, your pressing stability, and your overhead power will all increase. Because you've upgraded the neural gateway that controls, here's the part most people miss. Because this next principle isn't about what exercise you do, it's about how you do every exercise. What most people do, they train for 1 hour, then sit in a chair. Why it's their bodies were under low-grade mechanical tension for 10 to 14 hours a day. This constant modern research calls this mechanical loading frequency, and it's the often your. This is why Viking-era skeletal remains show bone density and tendon insertion sites that. The better method, weighted daily movement. Here's how. Wear a weight vest, 10 to 20% of your body weight, during routine activities. Walk to the store in it, do your chores in it, take your dog out in it. You're not working out. You're restoring the baseline mechanical demand your body was designed to operate under. Progression method. Start with 10% body weight for 1 hour a day. Add 15 minutes per week. Build to 3 to 4 hours of daily weighted movement. Your knees, your back, your shoulders, they won't break down, they'll build up. Because what most people do, they optimize for comfort. Climate-controlled gym. Why it's wrong. Discomfort is not the enemy of performance. Discomfort is the signal that adaptation is occurring. The Vikings trained outdoors, in rain, in snow, in wind. They wrestled on frozen ground, they swam. This wasn't madness. It was deliberate environmental stress. Cold exposure activates brown adipose tissue and increases norepinephrine by up to 300%, which drives focus, energy, and fat metabolism. Completely different physiological demand than training wind, rain, and uneven terrain force constant proprioceptive recalibration, your body. The better method, train outside at least twice a week, not in perfect weather. In whatever weather exists. Here's how. Take 1 strength session and 1 conditioning session per week outdoors. Don't wear gloves unless it's progression method. Start with mild discomfort, cool mornings, light rain. Build toward genuinely challenging conditions. Over months, your body will stop interpreting discomfort as a threat and start interpreting it as a cue to perform. That is the deepest adaptation the Vikings built, not just physical toughness, neurological tolerance for chaos. 1. Stop isolating muscles. Train full body chains under fatigue. 2. Lift awkward objects from the ground. The instability is the stimulus. 3. Kill empty cardio. 4. Train your grip like your life depends on it, because neurologically, you're 5. Wear load. 6. Train in discomfort. The Vikings didn't have, they had demand. Relentless, and their bodies responded. Your environment is asking almost nothing of you, so start not with more sets, not with more exercises, with more demand. That's how, and that's how you build one that actually works.